Hey, this is Dag, and you're listening to Beyond Trek Podcast.
On a red alert.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Beyond Trek Podcast. I'm your host, Dag. In the house with me, I've got Renzo and Suzanne. Today, we are going to talk to you about Star Trek Picard, Episode 6, 2 of 1. But before we get into that, we have a very special segment. Our own Suzanne was at Mission Chicago this last weekend, and they're going to tell you more about it.
I'd like to talk about it. I'll talk about it.
I mean, you were there. Lovely. I'm totally interested in knowing what panels did you attend? Who did you see? I saw that great picture of you with like 4 other 7s of 9.
Oh, it was wonderful.
Is that how you do it, plural? 7s of 9, or is it 7 of 9s?
I say 7 of 9s, but it's technically 7
one. I think it's 7s of 9, because it's calls de Sac.
We could just say with like other Hanukkahs. That would totally bypass the congestion.
Or other 7s.
So panels. Did you see any cool panels?
I did. I saw some of the Prodigy panel. I couldn't stay for the whole one. But it was lovely, and I know that there was a Naomi Wildman cosplayer that got to ask Kate a question, which I thought was so sweet.
What was the question?
And then she asked how long it took to make an episode, essentially.
Oh, okay.
And it was lovely, and the kids got priority for questions, which hello, as it should be. And there was a little Dal caricature guy. I didn't like him.
I heard somebody asked Kate Mulgrew if Catherine Janeway murdered Tuvix.
I saw that video.
God.
I know. I'm like groaning thinking about it.
I was there, and it physically pained me. And she handled it with grace, as she handles everything.
I didn't watch the video. What did she say?
She
basically said, what did she say?
He said it was a very challenging episode. It was a really tough situation. It was like, but I don't know if she did murder him, but I know she wanted to.
Yeah, that was it. I know she wanted to. And then, and the other girl said something. She said, well, what was your theory? And the other girl said something, and Kate said, I rest my case. And it's sweet. And then, of course, somebody asked her, are you going to be at Picard? Like, shut up. It was just really... So,
her publicist did an interview did like a dialogue or whatever with some of the guys who do Star Trek Online, because Kate Mulgrew was in Star Trek Online, and even the publicist is sick of Tuvix. It's like there is nothing that annoys me more than seeing that name somewhere.
No, it's gone on way too long, and I feel like people think that it's like a funny. I mean, listen, whatever, it's fine. It's not a harmful question, but it's just, to me, it was just like, oh, we've gone over this so many times.
Unfortunately, by saying his name so many times, he got out of bed, came around and poked his head and looked at me because I said his name.
Bless him. Oh, sweetheart. Oh, and the Picard panel. Oh my God, the Picard panel. It was just so lovely. I'm sorry. It was Issa Briones, Evan Evagora, Michelle Hurd, and I'm blanking. No, I'm blanking on who else was there. It was one of the. Oh my God, I can't remember his name. No, that's so sad. I was very tired, but I can't remember who was there. One of the production.
Akiva?
No, it was not Akiva. No, Akiva was not there. I cannot remember his name. Harry, something like that. I can't remember. I feel so bad. But no, it was lovely, and they all just talked about meeting Patrick Stewart, which was lovely, and I got to ask Michelle a question, which was great. I asked I told her I had seen her on SVU as Jeffries, and then I said, I love seeing other badass queer women on Star Trek as a queer woman myself, and like, what is it like playing a character like that? And she really went into it. It was really, really kind about it. And I also spoke to her at her table about it, and she really seemed to sort of embrace that part of her character and what she means to the community. And the best part was she seemed to really, really be having a good time. She's really just having fun. And that was lovely. I met Kate Mulgrew as well. And again, just lovely, genuinely lovely person. There's so much of it. I'm going to make a scrapbook because I want to remember all of it. My friend Mo, Butch Vulcan on Twitter, won the cosplay contest as Spock, and did the whole performance at the end of the runway, and it was so cool, and I'm so proud of them. And I got to hang out with Genevieve and Mo and Randy from my Twitter, and we all hung out and had deep dish and talked about life, and it was super cool. I have to say, one of the best parts about going to a con is just meeting all of the people and seeing all your friends and talking to them and everything. And
meeting people in real life is great. Doing that at weddings is fun too, right, Dag?
It absolutely is.
Nice. Absolutely. Oh my god, but it was awesome. There's so much. I met Dan Hageman. I met Ben Hibon, Bonnie Gordon, and I met Aaron Walkie, who
the writer
looked at me, shook my hand, and told me that he has seen the podcast to Aaron Walkie with Love and sent it to his wife. So it's like, thank you, man. He was super cool. They were all so nice, and got a lovely photo with them, and that was really awesome. And then saw Bonnie later.
To know that he's actually heard our podcast.
Yeah, no, he said like to Aaron Walking with Love, right? And I said yeah. And he said, yeah, no, I sent that to my wife. I was like, hello, thank you.
That's great.
Yeah, he's great. I could tell he was very much sort of like walking around the convention like, oh my god, this is awesome, sort of like kind of like everybody else, you know. And
I can imagine most people when they go to their first one after they've become part of like the franchise, it's a whole different experience, right? Like it's a little bit of hero worship, a little bit of like trying to be incognito so people don't notice you immediately. It's got to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. It was really great, and just seeing how everybody interacted with the fans and how the fans interacted with the cast, and it was just one big family. And there were a lot of people my age and younger that were, you know, trans or visibly queer in some aspect, and were just living. They weren't. Nope. It was awesome to see everybody be themselves and have their little pronoun stickers on their lanyards, and you know, talk about it. And then I went to Jackie Cox as well, and that was lovely. And I got to meet a good friend of mine, Callie, and it's just it was really awesome. And I can't wait to go to another con. Unfortunately, the one that I really want to go to if it's on my birthday is in London, and I don't think that's gonna happen.
Oh no.
But I want to go so bad because I want to meet John. I want to meet the Quit Star Trek Pod gang.
Yeah. Olivia and them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm genuinely gonna make a scrapbook like a mom, because I want to remember everything that happened.
Way to go.
Super cool. And weed's legal in Chicago, which I thought was fun.
Yeah, from where you are to Chicago, that's just, I mean, for me that would be a really long way. For you, that's kind of a jaunt.
Yeah, it's
What did you think of Deep Dish though? Was it your first time having like actual Chicago Deep Dish?
No, I've actually had deep dish before. I went to Chicago right before the pandemic hit in January 2020. And that was the first time I'd ever had deep dish. And it was okay. It was more of like a touristy restaurant, I guess. This place actually like felt really authentic, and it was absolutely delicious. I also had cheesy garlic bread, which is one of the best things to ever exist. This is delicious. Kombucha, by the way, before anyone sees this and goes, what is she drinking?
No, I think that deep dish is delightful. I think deep dish is delightful. I just don't think calling it pizza is quite fair. It's more like just a casserole, but it is delicious.
It's definitely like a pizza casserole. I fully believe that. The deep dish I had actually was not so deep. It like felt like a pie, you know. But that's where pizza pie comes from. So honestly,
if you go with the sandwich alignment chart, deep dish pizza is just ravioli.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like a Pop-Tart.
It was delicious though. It's really good.
When it comes to food things, I should go by the cube rule, which I'm sure you've seen. But the cube rule, I think, is the way to do it. So,
that's fair. Oh, and I wanted to mention, because I know that y'all freak. I don't remember what booth it was, because I'm gonna have to look it up, because I was literally just walking around like this the whole time. But there's a Board Cube computer case.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they were doing a not a raffle, or like maybe it's a raffle or whatever.
It was.
Star Trek Online was advertising it. Yeah.
It was. I want it real bad. I want that computer case so bad.
I've seen a number of people on Twitter with builds that are board cubes.
Oh man, it's so cool. Because clearly, I love the Borg, or just hi. But like, yeah, it was really dope. And then just seeing all the cosplayers was really great. Like somebody was like the Green Hand with the Enterprise. Somebody had a shield above them, like over them, with like words on it from the original text.
Oh yeah, that's the alien from the Fesarius with Herb F. Solo.
Yeah.
From the credits.
Oh, yeah. It was so cool. It was so
iconic end credit scene of all time. still.
Oh, and of course Jess was there in full Ferengi getup
Great.
and just absolutely killed it. It was so cool, and
Now,
everybody was so nice.
Did you get to meet at Batleth Babe?
I did meet Heather, and she's so
Awesome.
lovely. She's just as lovely as you would
Yeah.
imagine she is.
She's
Yeah, she was
awesome.
wonderful. We met the first day, and we kind of hung out here and there as it continued. But unfortunately, and I feel so bad, I had to miss her. I had to miss her panel with Trek Geeks, I think it was. That was Star Trek Saved My Life. I had to miss that, and I feel so bad. I'm sorry, Heather. I wanted to be there, but we had to catch our flight.
I bet that was probably a really good panel too.
Well, it probably was, and I wish I had been able to stay another day. But everybody that I spoke to said it was very moving and lovely, and I wish I had been able to see it, but we had to get we almost missed our flight coming back because we didn't want to leave. But yeah, no, it was great, and for a first convention, I mean, just meeting people and connecting with people in that way is so, like, it so far exceeded any of my expectations. And I also wanted to mention there was this one interaction that I had that was so sweet with Riley, I believe, where they walked up to me and asked me for my like Twitter @ and everything, or I asked them for their Twitter @ and they were just so sweet about it and like nervous, and it was, I don't know, it was really lovely. It was lovely for people to recognize me from Twitter and like post pictures. They just it was very strange to me that was a thing, because I feel like if it's online, you forget that, like, oh, there's like thousands of people that know who you are,
right?
And especially in this one particular space. And it was the Picard skulls. I'm sorry, that's random, but I can't forget the
we
Picard
saw the
skulls.
Pictures of that. That looked awesome.
They were so cool. Oh my
Apparently,
god, they were
the
so
name
cool.
tag on the Ferengi one is Zek. It's Zek. Picard just beat Zek to death with his own cane, I guess. I don't know if you got close enough to read the name tags. Those like Martok.
No, they were pretty
Dukat
surrounded, and I'm one of those
Zek.
people. I'm one of those museum people that is very careful about getting close to shit.
Right on.
But it was awesome.
So I feel you on that, but sometimes museums have less strict rules than you put on yourself, and when they do, it's delightful.
Yes.
I went to the War Museum in Ottawa, like the Canadian capital. It was awesome. Lots of tanks. That was why I went to this specific museum. And I'm going there and I'm looking around, and then we get to this one tank about 2/3 of the way down the hall, and it literally says, "Please do not climb on this tank. Be gentle when you touch." And I was like, so I actually flagged down one of the like employees and was like, "This one says to be gentle when you touch. Are you saying that I could have touched any of the others?" And then I was like, "Well, obviously. Just don't try and like bend it or break it, obviously." I'm like, "Okay, well, I need to start over. I need to go back to the beginning. Thanks."
Me, stop. That's
Right?
absolutely me. Every time I see like old furniture, I'm like, I want to touch it. Like,
Does tactile contact enhance your appreciation for the Phoenix?
So much.
oh my god, yes. No, it's very true. I love museums that are interactive, especially as, you know, I have a touch of autism. And so, like, you know, going to museums that allow you to like touch stuff. Like when I was a kid, thrived in museum environments because I was always just like, ooh, there's like a kid area with stuff I can do. So I miss that. I miss that we kind of have to look at it in appreciation and nod our heads and move on. But yeah, no, the that was really cool. Oh, the Strange New Worlds exhibit with all the costumes. Wow, that was really, really, really cool. I'm absolutely excited to see. I mean, obviously I'm excited for Strange New Worlds, but the costumes were really, really amazing. And I got a picture with the wall that had Uhura on it. And that was lovely. And God, it was just so cool. It was really, really cool. And I'm trying to remember if there were any other panels I went to. I had to miss the Discovery one, and I missed the Lower Decks one, which I fully, absolutely regret that I couldn't go to. I wish that I had gone to
Apparently
that one.
they were all in costume.
They were.
And wearing Boimler's wig. Like
Oh, yeah.
Jack was anyway.
Oh yeah, he
Looked
was.
like a blast,
That
honestly.
looked amazing.
Oh, it looked like a total blast. I wish I had been. But yeah, no, it was wow. I've never felt so much love Like it was one of the, because I've been to cons before. I've been to anime conventions and stuff like that just because my friends went and I wanted to go. And I've experienced harassment. I've experienced like being a part of a panel. I experienced some bad vibes. Especially I was a minor at the time. You know, people asked really horrible questions, etc. I didn't experience any of that at Chicago. I mean, there were a couple issues here and there. Honestly, there's always one, but like, I met people that I felt like I had known, and I have known for years, and we just kind of fell into that, and it was easy, and it was fun, and it was probably one of the best things I've ever done as a young adult, and I will be going to so many more cons because oh my god.
Like, I'm glad
it's
it was
a
a really
drug.
positive experience. For some people, it's a little overwhelming. So many people, so many conversations all around you. It can be much, but so I'm glad you had a lot of fun.
Me too.
Yeah, I was worried I'd get overwhelmed, especially just because I hadn't been around a lot of people in a while, and it was awesome. I will admit I was not fully masked the whole time. It wasn't required, and it can get hot in there.
Yeah, I bet it can.
But I was careful symptoms wise, and I brought some rapid tests with me and everything like that. And I kind of wish I had been more careful about it. But with the cosplays and everything with my hair, the only masks I had to go over your head twice.
I mean,
but it was
we're post Omicron peak, right? Like we're in the lowest point that we've been in for more than a year.
Right.
So I mean, yes, it's risky to take advantage of it, but I mean,
and I am probably going to start wearing them a little bit more religiously as the numbers tick up, because they are ticking up a little bit where I am, like a teeny weensy tiny bit.
Yeah, the new variant.
Yeah, but enough that I'm probably going to be a little more careful going forward, but haven't had it yet, knock on wood.
Well, speaking of going forward,
nice.
how about we jump into this episode?
Yeah, let's do that.
Spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert.
Renzo, this episode, man, like, wild.
You saw my live reaction. You got my messages.
Okay, so if you guys don't know, Renzo and I watch the episode almost as soon as it comes out, and Renzo doesn't have that liberty. So when Renzo watches it, he's like live Discording me his reactions, and I love it because it's amazing. It's like, I just like that kind of stuff, like MST3K. I love it. It's so good. So keep doing that.
Happy to.
I hope you like my Treckle posts every day.
Oh, I don't mind them at all. I just don't play Treckle. I can't. My brain tries to be like, what's 5 letters? How can I? No, this is not for me. So I'll just do Wordle and be happy with that.
Well, there you go.
All right. So this episode is great. The name of the title is 2 of 1, which is a clear reference to there being 2 people inside of one at a time. So no subtlety there about the subject.
Like, we didn't know that was
awesome.
coming as soon as we saw the episode title, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh, 100%, yeah. It still exceeded expectations. I have so many. Anyway.
We'll get there.
So this episode kicks us into high gear right from the start, right? As the audience can tell from the opening shot, Picard's lying on the ground, little trickle of blood out of his mouth, voices all around him. Kind of confusing. What's happening there?
Well, so they're talking about taking Picard to like a hospital, and then they're trying to figure out if they should get him back to the La Sirena sick bay, but that's not a doctor, that's not the same. So there's like a whole discussion. We just don't know what's going on. We see these flashes of Picard's memories, like his home, looking for his mom, and then we get this very ominous 34 minutes earlier, like, cut. It was a thing. It was a thing. I was a little distraught.
I liked it. I feel like sometimes that can be kind of overwhelming, I guess, and maybe the pacing would be weird, or like just I've seen that done where it's not done well, and I don't think that happens here at all. I think it's a perfect sort of like shit hits the fan. Here's how, and it's dope. I really like that.
I was really afraid that they were gonna pull the whole 24 bullshit where it's like real time, the episode takes place in real time, as does everything else. I'm glad they didn't do that because it's kind of a contrived thing. I like the idea of just using the 26 minutes ago, 18 minutes, whatever, is just like a build up a little suspense, because it works for that. For building up suspense.
I thought it was great. Yeah.
Interesting moment is when you said 24, I'm like, I kind of feel like this font is 24 font. Like the 34 minutes earlier It just feels like that. I don't know.
But we don't have that big countdown clock. Bump, bump,
Beep,
bump
beep.
as it hits 0
Beep,
each
beep.
time.
Beep,
Yeah.
Beep beep.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I thought it was really well done, and just sort of that beginning of like, oh damn, and then like going straight into just like, okay, how the hell did we get to this point? But no, it's and I feel like it's always just sort of, it's sort of shocking to see Picard like laying on the ground like bloodied, I feel.
Mhm.
And so that was definitely just like, oh, okay, something went horribly wrong really fast.
Yeah, and it looked
yeah,
like
it was
it was
great.
something pretty serious because the people huddled around him were like talking about calling an ambulance and getting him to a doctor kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
it wasn't like he tripped and hit his nose kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we get our intro, then we cut back to this time they're in line. They're just like waiting to get in. Picard is like in an impeccable tux. He's got like a little name tag on. Little bit of an interesting choice there. And Talon is complaining about Picard calling her Laris again and trying to get like information about like who is Laris, right?
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting because Laris is definitely Romulan. Talon is presented as being human, noting the
Mhm.
rounded ears and such, but we get these constant hints that she's not just human. The UI in one of the previous episodes was in Romulan. In this episode, she speaks Romulan.
She speaks Romulan.
When
Yeah.
you say the UI, you're talking about like her personal display.
Yeah, in the
Yeah.
pad, and the lettering and all that was in Romulan.
Yeah.
So-
Definitely something possibly there.
I totally agree. And
I read a theory. I read a theory that I don't particularly like. I don't think it's true, but I do want to share it with you, Dad, because I know you love the crackpot stuff.
Oh, give me it.
All right. So the theory is that, this conversation or the conversation in this episode between Picard and Talon are very important for her. So she learns to reach out to her people that she's supervising. And in the distant future, when Picard meets Laris, that is his actual supervisor. It's the same person that's now supervising Picard in the 25th century that was also supervising Renee in the 21st. And the reason why she's so much more involved is because of this conversation that Picard had with her in the past. She remembers this all. He doesn't know it.
I hate
I
it.
think it's real crackpot. Yeah, I hate it too. I'm
yeah,
not a fan.
I mean, I don't know. It wouldn't shock me if that were somehow in some way true. I don't think that it's like one of those things that like it's her specifically. Maybe it's like an ancestor or like a whatever. But no, my comment is this. I don't like the Picard Laris angle. I'm not a huge fan of it. I haven't been since it started. But
You
He's
mean
too
in the
young
one
for
episode?
her. It's not fair.
He's too young.
what? Yeah, he's too young for her. But no, I mean, I think that at the same time, the more I watch it, I'm like, okay, fine, yeah, all right, because like, anyway, especially considering the season 3 announcement we got, I'm putting my clown shoes on back in the Crusher
You want
Picard
Beverly?
game.
Okay.
But
Cool.
I mean, not really. It's just one of those that like it would bother me less. Like I'm not a diehard.
That's fair.
But it's more just like I don't know where this came from, and I'm not sure that I like it.
I will
but
say
I love
that-
Orla Brady, so
Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
I want to say that I really love the dialogue between the two of them. Like when Picard lies and goes that Laris was no one of importance, and Talon goes, "Thank you for that. Now I know what you look like when you lie." That is a really good like little bit of dialogue.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and then that like you do this weird thing when you something like that. I can't remember exactly what she said, but it was lovely, and I like her character a lot. The only thing I noticed that like for me, because I'm weird, one of the things that I do with like film and television, if I watch, because I grew up on BBC, and if there's a certain British actor that I know and have heard many times, I will pick up on how their accent changes if they try and do an American accent or like an Australian accent or something different. And so it was hard for me to tell that it was a different character because she still has like parts of her Irish accent when she speaks, which no one would notice but me and my crazy brain. But I was just trying to like, oh wait, no, she's American. Okay, cool. And then once I realized it, like, yeah, it's she does an incredible job. It's just that it's so Irish and American can be really close in terms of inflection and whatnot, and I just thought it was funny because I was like,
some
oh, wait.
actors are so gifted at masking their accents right? Like, and then some people are Dick Van Dyke, right? Like, but some people really do produce excellent fake American accents. I think the reverse is actually much rarer. Like Americans producing authentic British accents.
Agreed.
That doesn't happen very often.
Agreed.
No, and but when I watch Benedict Cumberbatch in any movie where he's trying to be American, I can tell where like in what places he falters, which is so weird, but that's just like how my brain works.
And I was just gonna say like Henry Cavill, Benedict Cumberbatch, and the latest Spider-Man, Tom Holland.
Tom Holland.
They're all British and they're all just really good. But then you just have to realize like the best way for a British actor to do an American accent is just sound constantly annoyed. Like like Gregory House.
That's what Benedict Cumberbatch does. He perpetually sounds annoyed with everyone.
It's wonderful.
Yeah,
it's wonderful.
And
I'm not
do it. English, when you try to do an English accent, suddenly the voice is so soft and you're just like, hey, how's it going? Everything's fine. And then you're talking like an American and everything just sucks all the time and you just really want to get into the grittiness of it all.
And you have to say all the letters, like that's the rough part for them. They want to skip over sounds while we say every letter. No, but I give Tom Holland a lot of credit. He does a lot of good accent work. I think his neutral American accent is better than his New Yorker accent because he's got both and he does them separately. But his neutral accent is really legit. His was
that what he did in Uncharted?
Yes.
I did not see that movie. I did see the preview.
It's so good.
When the guy's yelling at him in Scottish and he's like, "What?"
The movie is not amazing. The games are. The movie's not amazing, but his performance was great.
Name one. We're totally sidetracking here. Name one video game movie that's better than the video game.
Doom.
With The Rock.
Yeah.
Really?
It's amazing.
All right.
You have a first-person scene where you're literally like seeing him shooting things with a gun. It's so good.
Okay.
I don't have one because I don't play games. Well, that's a lie. I watched Arcane recently, so I'll
go
with that.
So coming back to the Beyond Trek podcast.
Anyway.
All right. So, okay. The scene cuts to Picard saying to Rio said he has to get into position, and then he calls Girardi to tell her to proceed with the plan. And Girardi has to like hack the computers, but she's still handcuffed to the chair. We see the Borg Queen once again, just kind of hanging out next to her, being like, "Oh, you knocked them out while they were that far away? You should have waited till he was closer so you could fish out the keys from his pocket."
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
She's right, but
yeah,
there's an interesting moment there where she knocks them out and then she looks to the Queen for like approval, and I'm like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Yo, that's still gay. I
wouldn't go into ship territory with that. There's a lot of abuse associated with the Borg.
Listen, I know that, and I'm not saying that I do. I just think it's creepy, and I'm a Borg enthusiast, and also it's a little bit, and in a horrible, terrible way. And I'm not, again, no, because clearly she is not a willing participant in this. Not enjoying it.
Right.
Well, no, I don't know if that's quite true, right? Because in these conversations, right, like Girardi clearly says that, no, I did this on purpose and I'm hiding you on purpose because you are our only ticket home. I can just keep you in check. She's obviously wrong, but she definitely was willing when she got herself into this mess. She had to do something. She chose to do this.
Yeah, I think it's just sort of the lesser of two evils, I guess. But
there are conversations that are going to come up later that are going to lead me to like really like be impressed with the Borg Queen and the bionetics of their relationship there. But we'll talk about that when we get there.
Agreed.
Well, so the bit that I found wildest here, honestly, it's the only part that really makes me question what exactly is going on. From the beginning, I've been thinking that this was not some sort of like actual augmentation with technology of Girardi. This is all in her head, right? It's something in her cerebellum, right? It's not like she has nanites flowing through her blood. But that moment where she snaps out of a pair of handcuffs while bolted to a chair just because the Queen helped her a little bit makes me real sus about it. I don't know exactly what's going on.
Adrenaline.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's true, yeah.
Your wrist will snap.
Yeah, I mean, considering it's Agnes, and also considering, like, there were tubules involved. I mean, assimilation there's clearly something more than just
Something contacted her, but I don't think there were any nanites involved, so I don't think
Probably
she's
not,
actually
no.
being assimilated. I don't know exactly what's going on. I think it was more like a technological mind meld kind of thing, like a Katra got dumped into her skull kind of bit. But don't know.
We've got a Caprica 6 on the loose in our cyberneticist.
The red dress has to be a reference to it.
I
It has to be.
posted that on Twitter to much discussion, both affirming and calling it a stretch. But anyway, did you notice the name that came up under Rio's scan before Girardi hacked it?
I did not.
So it was a physician named Carl Leonard Kelly. A physician, a doctor.
Carl Urban, Leonard
DeForest
McCoy,
Kelly.
DeForest
Oh.
Kelly.
Leonard McCoy.
That's cute.
Yeah. So very nicely done there.
love that.
Just a little bit there is all good.
No.
Well, either way, after they get through the checkpoint, to explain, Girardi uses some little gizmo that she had hidden up her leg to knock everybody unconscious with just like a button press, and she's just fine. Cool little gizmo. She uses the Borg Queen's push to snap out of some restraints, which should have broken her wrists, and then grabs control of the thing, sticks in a thumb drive, drops in their IDs, and Rios and crew get through the security checkpoint just fine. Picard talks to Girardi and says that like he knew she could do it, right? Like just some good moral reinforcement, which is very Picardian. So yeah.
Picardian.
Yeah, I mean, and then, there's a moment where at the end of it, Girardi and the Borg Queen are like, time to go enjoy our moment, right? And back to enjoying our evening. So we should leave before these two mooks wake up with short-term memory loss.
Yeah, it's a very slow handhold. It's manipulative and creepy, and at the same time, I sit back like, we seeing this? Hey yo, because it's for me it's more like no, I don't actually want it to be a thing, but also
see, and I'm uber
Borg
creeped
Queen
out because I get like strong grooming vibes. Like the Borg
100%.
Queen is just a complete creep, and
oh yeah, 100%.
I'm telling you,
it's creepy, but I also
Harvey. This is Harvey from Farscape again, making John think that he's crazy, manipulating him to doing things that are not in his best interest, and then when he's not paying attention, asserting control for a little bit and making things worse. This is such a good way to approach the Borg Queen's like brain assimilation or mental assimilation. It works for me.
But same. Yeah, it's really cool. I really like it. And I think it's a different, not necessarily a different side of the Borg Queen than we've seen before, but more of a like she's not vulnerable in the fact that she's vulnerable at all, and is somehow managing to take the vulnerability of being, out of body, etc., whatever, and just work with it to her own in her own best interest. And it's really cool. And I love that Agnes is the character that is chosen for this, because obviously they could have gone with Seven, which would have bothered the hell out of me. But I think that it makes so much sense for her character as somebody who relates a lot to Agnes, this character who hasn't really felt like anyone saw her, and who has that fascination with not higher beings, but cybernetic beings or androids, things like that. And so I think it's really, really cool and really fascinating to watch it happen. It's creepy as hell, but also I'm of the mind of like, if villain bad, why hot? So
If villain bad, why hot? Oh man, you'd fall for vampires all the time.
no, that's what I was talking about. I was talking about this with High at one point. Like it's like 2 tubules in the neck. It's supposed to be euphoric. Like it reads like a vampire fan fiction when I was like 14. It's
supposed to be
100%.
When is it supposed to be euphoric? Because I've seen assimilations and they're all struggling very badly.
No, did you not hear what? No. So in the first couple episodes of this season, when she is, he talks about how it can be euphoric and you don't want to leave, and like that's part of why it's so effective.
I don't know, man. I just watched First Contact, and that dude that got the first tubules, and he's laying there like, please, Captain.
Yeah,
I'm like, yeah,
100%.
that's not euphoric. That's
No.
painful.
But it
Better
seems like
dead
one of
than
those
Borg.
things of like sort of like a
Oh.
when a like killer wasp, like one of those zombie wasps, like it's like, yeah, it hurts for a second, but like that after a few minutes they don't know. They just, you know. So it reads like that to me, but
You just
it's
have
very
a construction worker at the levers of your brain, and nothing matters anymore.
All right,
and it's
cutting,
also the queen, so you know.
cutting to our next scene. We've now got Picard in a hospital bed. We hear beeping and monitors and computers and such showing around. We hear that his vital signs are dropping, and we get some more flashbacks, some more signs of him as a kid running around. Then we jump back 26 minutes earlier, so another time back. It's well done again. This time we've got Picard and Talon at a table. Rios 7 and Raffi are at a bar. Girardi enters and gives Picard like a typical head shake, like nod, whatever. And there are photo ops going on. Like it's just a whole thing going on, right? It's just a regular seeming high society party.
Mhm.
Except for one thing. Renee is sitting at alone at the corner of the bar, just knocking back shots. It's not the best of looks.
No, it's a bad
I
time.
mean, are we saying it's not the best of looks because we're aware of her mental health struggle and we understand that it's coping from our end? Or is it not the best of looks because a pilot who's a day away from getting locked into quarantine shouldn't be drinking like this?
Yes,
Both
yes,
question marks?
and a third one too. It's kind of generally not a good idea if you're in a high society gala to get yourself shit-faced, because you kind of want to keep up a good front.
Yeah,
Nobody knows what her
that was my reason.
tolerance is, though. That's
That's
just
true.
guess
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
true.
that's just
it's-
my thing. Like, I don't know. As somebody with a really
I mean-
high tolerance, it takes like I can go out for a night and have a good night, and like I'm not going to drive or anything because that's obviously irresponsible. But I don't feel.
I mean,
Buzzed.
test pilots do have a reputation for being heavy drinkers. That's true.
Yeah, it's very true. No, yeah, and
I'm not
I
a test pilot, but like I just want to give Renee the benefit of the doubt and be like she can slam him like anybody can, and that's cool. But
Yeah,
More
I mean,
power to her.
yeah.
More power to
the
her
way
in
the
that
episode
case.
does portray it is it definitely like a coping,
yeah,
thing.
she is not handling things well, clearly, and I think we see her take at least 3, which. Yeah, if I were honestly like day before quarantine, and I mean, I've gone to parties that were way less stressful than that, where I had like met CEOs of stuff and just said, okay, I'm
know
gonna
what?
have a couple of these.
I'll bet Zephram
And-
Cochrane is an intern and knows her.
Ha!
Just the
Yeah.
way that he was drinking tequila.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Connection.
Oh my God, no. But yeah, no. I mean, I've been to work parties that were more stressful than that, or that were less stressful than that, and just been like, I'm gonna have a couple of these, all right? Because I mean, but it just depends on her tolerance. But clearly, it's just a really bad coping mechanism, and we're meant to see like,
We're
Okay.
supposed to be worried for her because Picard
Oh, yeah.
seems to be worried for her too. So we're supposed to like associate that, I think.
yeah, and she's not stumbling around or anything. She's just like, I'm stressed, which is fair. I think for anybody in this situation, especially if you have anxiety, depression, anything like that.
Yeah, so Picard and Talon have a little discussion about like that Renee is just putting on a good look. They have to worry and watch her, and then Picard is just surprised that as a supervisor, she has never talked to Renee ever in 24 years. So there's this follow-up conversation about how like Picard wonders who's watching over Talon, who makes sure that you're okay. So
Yeah, no, I think that in the whole beginning of this episode that Talon is sort of reading Picard quite a bit. She's very good at it. And is sort of doing that, and in that line about who's taking care of you, I think threw her off. Wasn't expecting that kind of sort of banter from him, I suppose.
it just shows that Picard is an empathetic being, right? Like he cares about everybody that he works with, no matter how little he knows about them or not. Like he doesn't know Talon super well. Sure, he's got a parasocial like friendship with her because of the existence of Laris, but he still cares for her and still wants to make sure that she's okay because she's been doing this for a long time. It's good. It's a good character trait.
Yeah, no, I loved that. And by the way, this is random, but going back to the accent thing, I want to make it clear, I'm not dissing Orla Brady. I'm not saying she has a bad American accent. I'm just saying that I'm dumb and I've seen her in literally probably I've seen so many things she's been in, and so like listening to her doing American accent, I was like, is that okay? Cool. I just don't want it to sound like I'm dissing her because I'm not at all.
When Renee
So our
is
next
posing,
scene-
when Renee is posing for a picture, did anybody count the stars on the American flag?
It should be 52, you think, right? Or 50?
I had thought there might be, but there's only 50. I was waiting for my Royale reference. Because in Star Trek Next Generation Royale, we have a 52-star flag. But the Royale takes place, the Royale...
2033?
Yeah, so sometime between 2024 and 2033, perhaps due to resource issues and additional, sanctuary district things,
Imperialism.
we quickly make 2 more protectorates states.
Puerto Rico and DC become states. You heard it here first. Okay.
Puerto Rico. See, I was hoping Puerto Rico, DC, and Guam, and then Florida could just leave.
Just saw Florida. Yeah. Bye.
Or we could give Texas to Mexico. That's cool too.
You don't want to do that to the
that'd be
Mexicans.
great.
They don't deserve that.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
They have enough problems on their own. All right, going back to the episode, Girardi walks in, sits alone at a table, and like has this really cool conversation with the queen in her head again, where we get like a nice little pronouns discussion about using we when there's only one of us here, and it's a trans joke, but it's like a good trans joke, honest.
Yeah. No. It very much is. Because as someone with different pronouns, it was good. I think it was well done. It wasn't like one of those demeaning things or where it was just meant to be like not necessarily a trans joke, but more of like a just banter, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a joke in the sense of like, oh, we're gonna make fun of trans people, which
No. It wasn't making trans the butt of the joke. It was just like a joke which used the questioning of pronouns as the background for it.
I thought it was great. I honestly
Yeah.
thought it was great.
Honestly, I think it's the first time I've heard a joke in that vein that wasn't some bullshit like, oh, identify as an Apache attack helicopter, kind of thing.
Yeah. I identify as a threat. This kind of shit.
Yeah. So, no, I'm glad that was a good
as
scene.
Suzanne's backup. You be the threat. I'll back you up.
Hell yeah. You're just like, let me at him type shit.
No, I'll throw Renzo at him and
Not
I
Renzo.
love bear hug. I love
Is he
bear hug.
bait? No. Oh my god.
Renzo and I,
right hook in the...
Renzo and I will be like a fastball special. Like I'll chuck Renzo, and then Renzo will just destroy whatever he hits.
Throw me, Bob.
I'm not sure that this works out that well, though, Dag. Like, I don't know if you can throw me.
I guess I have to lift.
You lift.
All right,
Oh my
so
God.
we
Back
get
to
this
the episode.
fun back and forth. Then that goes on about how like Girardi and Rio's having had intercourse, and the Borg Queen is kind of like.
I love that little
she's
addition of like
tingling
Agnes being
every
like
thread.
Oh yeah, I know, for sure, and it's horribly manipulative. But I also like that the Borg Queen has very twisted like humor ? Where especially in this banter of like her talking about like the norepinephrine and the it's humorous banter in a way, and I like that. I feel like that's something that we see sometimes with the Borg Queen, and we've seen I think in First Contact it happens, but here it's less of her being a physical threat and more of her being sort of a background scary thing that happens that's here that's also terrifying, and so we're allowed to see more of her navigating that vulnerability, and it's really cool and I like it a lot.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a different aspect of the Borg Queen, but it's still the same kind of like.
Oh yeah.
I'll say whatever I need you to get you to do what I want, so I can win, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting moment of product placement here. They do a close-up on the bottle of whiskey, which is from the NoCo Distillery, which is a real distillery in Colorado, Fort Collins.
Cool.
Star Trek isn't regularly known for doing product placement. That's the only reason why I bring it up.
Do we know if it was actual product placement or just like an inadvertent use of their bottle?
I mean,
it's something that big. I wouldn't assume it's inadvertent.
It's a full.
That's true.
It's a full screen close-up of their bottle. I would like to hope that
They paid.
Paramount wouldn't risk, misuse of product placement that way.
No, that's fair. All right, so at the end of this scene, the queen notes that like stress hormones are not good for us, so you're still completely in control, which at the time seemed like a very empty threat, but we'll learn later on that that is not true.
Yeah, we will.
All right, so our next scene is Raffi having this like tough moment where she's offered a drink at the open bar, and she's just like, I'll have a club soda, because she's a recovering alcoholic, so it makes sense that she has to think about it for a minute, but she held firm, she held strong, so good for her.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, I like that. I think it's important that that's a part of Raffi's character, because I think that we see in science fiction, especially, or in a lot of other genres, we see a lot of characters that clearly have an addiction, have a problem, and it's almost glorified in a way that's harmful. And I think that doesn't happen here, and I think it's important that it's something that's discussed. It's part of her character in the beginning of it, but it's also part, her recovery is part of the character as well. And I think that's a vulnerability that almost, how do I put it? Just like it's a vulnerability that makes her character more complex and also it tackles it in a way that's not harmful. And I really like that about it.
Yeah, and then we get the exact opposite approach, right? We get Rios, who comes in being like, I love this century. This time is great. The food is so good. The cigars, they smell great. Everything here is awesome, right? So we get this very measured approach to having some struggles in this century because of the availability of alcohol, and he's got a different approach. And it's very clear that Raffi is happy for him. She's not like pushing him away, like, no, I can't think about enjoying myself here. I've got to save Eleanor. No. She's happy that her friend is having a bit of a good time, which is a very mature stance, right? I really liked this scene, and just like seeing Rios like gushing over like a real cigar is great.
It's lovely. I really do like it.
That the foreshadowing here is that Rios is going to stay in the century.
That is the foreshadowing. Yeah. I hope we're wrong.
I hope I'm wrong.
I need love you so much. Rios Stargazer show. Give it to me.
We need more of him on the star. I don't know. Or it could be one of those things where they build it up and he wants to stay and realizes that he can't for the greater good and for the timeline, and then they have
the timeline. The timeline.
Yeah,
think of the timeline.
I mean, it would make sense, but I was so worried, and I'm also really worried Seven's gonna stay. And I know she's not, but I'm nervous, and I don't like it. And maybe that's just me. But I know Jerry filmed season 3. Like I know she tweeted about it.
Yeah.
So I think we see 7.
If they do time travel the way they should do time travel, this version of Rios and Annika can stay in this timeline if they want to, and the regular timeline will be restored where they're on the Stargazer when Picard makes a different choice.
Dag, there are no rules for this, right? This is Q fuckery. Right? Like, we can't expect that time travel is going to work the way it has in the past or the way it should, because Q fuckery. I can't think of it any other way.
That's true, yeah. I also wanted to mention with the Raffi and Rios moment, I love that she kind of goes, "What? You're happy? What's wrong?" Because that's absolutely me and my best friend. Because I mean, I feel like Raffi and Rios are relatable to people who have had struggles, who have met best friends through struggles, who have been through absolute hell together and have seen each other at their worst and their best and love each other completely, and it's so sweet. And I just love it. What is that? No, something's wrong. You're happy. I don't like that. And it's sweet. It's concerned, but it's like, I'm glad you're happy, but why? It's like, what's doing that? I just love that. I thought it was
we
so
see
sweet.
Rios as being dour as fuck like 90% of the show. There's a few cutesy scenes where he's bantering with Girardi in the first season, but besides that, he is a serious and sour fellow. But here he's just like having a bit of a blast, and he like plays with a match, like his first time lighting a real match, and he's like about to light a cigar and start puffing away, which is kind of strange, to be honest. Even at a high society function, that's very private, and kind of don't expect that to be allowed. I mean,
are they handing them out at the high society function?
Yeah.
It's LA. I'm sure that he could have just gotten one, but you're right. There probably is like a humidor somewhere that's open. I've been to parties where they had an open humidor. You can just grab one if you wanted.
Yeah.
Sweet. But yeah, no, I mean, it's one of those things where I feel like it's a bunch of rich people, and sometimes rich people just do things and fuck the rules kind of thing. Which is yeah.
That's true. It
I mean,
could
yeah,
just be
that
exactly
happens. But no, I mean, yeah, I loved that scene. I loved it. I also really loved the moment that they shared about Seven, and Seven kind of enjoying herself and like.
Oh yeah,
fun
when you see her just like being the belle of the ball for a moment there for the first time ever, probably.
Yeah, and it makes me like hate it for her because they use Borg tech on the Stargazer, and you're telling me they can't even look at the person who probably brought some of that back and even respect her in the slightest. It's bullshit. And so it makes you really feel for Seven, and also love this sort of that Ruffy is happy for her.
To be fair, I don't know if there's ever been a question of like people respecting her or disrespecting her, but it's more so like a visceral fear, right? Because
that's fair.
People can't
that's
control like they're scared, maybe even repulsed by the Borg, like the loss of autonomy kind of concept like scares people. So it's not, I don't know.
The people serving aboard the Stargazer probably lost parents at Wolf 359.
Yeah, probably.
It's been 34 years since Wolf 359. 11,000 people died, 39 starships. There's still like a trauma echo generationally. A lot of people on this ship lost people to that. There's probably some developers who were like, now we're using Borg tech to boost our ships. What kind of crap is this?
And even more recent than that, right? The Battle of Sector 001 was a 3-day long battle involving hundreds of ships, and we saw them getting swatted like flies out of the sky by that cube, right? There were definitely a good number of losses. We've never gotten a firm number in canon, but it was not a light affair for the Federation either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I hate it for her, but it makes sense. But I'm just glad she's allowed to can breathe for a little bit.
The other thing that was really cool about this scene was just the whole discussion between Raffi and Rios about his considering staying with Teresa, and his whole thing about like you couldn't find a relationship you cannot start a relationship based on the lie of time travel, right? And that's a very good point because everything after that is based on those lies. So don't go there. Is basically your point, which is
there's something important about her, and we'll talk about it when we get there.
All right, so our next scene is Renee returning to the bar. She's got another drink. She takes another shot worth of a gulp.
Did you want to mention the Elnor thing?
Oh, okay. So it's another hallucination of Elnor that Raffi sees. This is what, the third time since she's come back here? So
maybe
second or third, yeah.
Yeah, she's had a few. She's had a few of these moments where she just sees a flash of someone and she thinks it's Elnor. So.
Oh my god, I feel so bad.
She's got the PTSDs. She's got it bad.
Oh yeah. Which is why to me, refusing the alcohol is even more amazing.
Yeah.
Because she is going through it, and I feel like we haven't seen the full culmination of that. But anyway, continue.
So our next bit is just Renee just taking another shot. Picard asks Talon if she normally drinks this heavily, especially given that she's going in quarantine. Talon's like, it's the last hurrah. She's going to be up in space. She's going to be trapped. She's just having a good night. But when she reaches and grabs her phone, she starts rubbing her right ear, which starts a downward spiral. So Talon starts like looking at what she's doing on her phone, and she's apparently texting her therapist. And here's where we see Talon cursing under her breath in Romulan, as per the subtitles.
Mm-hmm.
I don't speak Rahansu, but the subtitles told me so. Which is, great.
Which is the subtitle saying cursing in Romulan and not actually what she's saying.
I would love to know exactly what she was saying.
Which is weird, because Picard should know, because he was speaking Romulan with Laris at the beginning of the season.
Picard might know. We don't.
I thought I saw him kind of react just a slight little bit there. I don't know if it's I don't know. It's weird. It's definitely strange. And I don't know if it's I don't know. I don't think that theory of her being Laris is true, but I do think that something's up. Something's there.
So Renee's texting Dr. Q about her plans to like back out of things, and Q encourages her to do so. Picard is like, well, I'm gonna go talk to her, and Talon's like, whoa, you can't. What do you know? And then he's like,
well, no.
yeah, no. And then Picard's like, well, you've done a great job up until now, but at this point, time to crack the egg. Time to like have the conversation. Time to settle this and make sure it happens. And then Talon at the end is like, all right, well, someone needs to get her flight commander out of the way. And Picard's like, well, get Jurati to do it. They speak the same language. She's a scientist, which is pretty reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get another scene with Jurati entering the room, and the Queen is talking to her again. Yeah, it's a lot.
It gets weird.
It's like walking around with the intrusive thoughts just constantly degrading you.
It's very much
that's
that.
what it is.
It's almost like her inner voice is no longer silent now. It's like actually she can actually hear it now.
No, I think it's more like the Queen is gaslighting her, like in her own head, right? Like it's telling you those things that are going to make you worry more and think that you're going crazy. When you're not going crazy, there literally is a voice in your head telling you these things.
Exactly. And the thing that is this when they walk back in the room? Am I in the right place? What happened? What'd they go do? That's what I'd like to know, because there's this whole scene about like, isn't that better? Like, what does that mean? Right? What were y'all doing? What's going on?
They needed a little break. I don't know what they were doing in the meantime at all.
And in my head, I'm like, no, but like, it's just a little like, okay. And I love how like.
Well, the conversation about the dress was also very fucking weird too, right? Like the Queen goes, "You're getting a lot of attention today," and Jurati's like, "Oh, it's just the dress. I'm wearing a dress." And the Queen's like, "No, it's the two of us. It's the confidence that I'm pumping through you, essentially." Yeah.
Phew, is something. I don't know. I live for Borg creepy storylines because, like, yeah, in reality, terrible, absolutely awful. But in my head, I'm like, Borg. I like this. I'm okay with this. I don't know why. Maybe I'm weird, but I love the Borg. She's terrible though. It's absolutely awful. I would like for Agnes to get out of this, please. Borg Queen evil.
I think it's okay for there to simultaneously exist I'm gonna say true because it's a fictional story, but one side of the brain that recognizes the Borg Queen as a threat and how uncomfortable the situation is, and on the other side of the coin to have maybe a little fantasy moment where you're like, but if this was totally consenting, it would be hot.
Yeah.
What do you think is the appeal of the Venom symbiote? It's the same thing, right?
Exactly what it is. God, I love the Venom fan base. It's terrible. But
we had the Venom symbiote, but now we have Moon Knight, so
Phew. Yeah,
all these head characters coming around at the same time.
Oh yeah, no, and I don't know. It's part of it is because like the whole listen, or if villain bad, why hot? But like, love you, Annie. But like, it's just I don't know. It's very much like we see two women interacting in a way that like this wouldn't have happened in Trek 20 years ago. I feel like in the same way. If that makes any sense. Like, I'm not saying that this is like the exact LGBT representation that we need,
There's
or that it's even
kind of
romantic.
like this, I think.
But like,
I mean, we were getting hunting feeling moments like this from the Queen in 7 whenever Seven had to interact with the Borg again.
And it does read very like intended like mirror. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
I mean, they're doing a very good job of keeping the distinction between our two blonde bombshells on this show very different. 7 is much more self-sure and socially, distant, and Jurati is very much more questiony and insecure, but also like completely alone.
Yeah.
But
not anymore.
Did you guys notice during this scene that both actresses, the Queen and Jurati, were both like mimicking each other's mannerisms? Like one would tilt her head slightly, the other one would do it too.
I did.
One
see
would
that
move her hand on the table, the other one moves the hand on it. It was very good. It was very unnerving.
Yeah, it was creepy in a really cool way. I really enjoy the storyline. I'd very much like for Agnes to get out of it, but it's cool.
Just an incredible acting job, right? Like I wonder how many times they had to rehearse that. Like, okay, so I'm gonna tilt my head left. You can tilt your head left too. Okay, good. All right. Like, how do you practice that?
Yeah, no, I've always wondered. But that I did notice that, and it was very well done.
It
Yeah,
is called
super cool.
acting.
So our next bit is where Rio shows up being like, hey, Picard's been trying to call you. Why aren't you answering? Oh, my communicator must be dead, right? And then Rios notices that she seems a little out of it, and he's like offering some support. Like, he says that he cares about her. Like, really, it's not that we're getting back together, but like, I care about you and I care for you. And Rios like stands there just kind of like waiting for something for a second for her to say something, and then the queen takes control of the body, grabs him by the tie, and just pulls him in for a good old smooch.
You know, as
Far
per
too
usual.
long.
I think it's oh my god. I think it says a lot about the whole what we're seeing. I feel like you could assume that since it's Agnes's body, the Borg Queen doesn't have a ton of control, but she could pretty much do anything she wanted at this point, I think. Considering that, or at least within a certain time frame. I mean, there may be only so long she can take control like that, but
Well,
it's telling.
we do get some discussion later that lets us know, like, biologically,
limitations.
biochemically, what the limitations are and how we're
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
exceed them later. I just wish that I had heard a certain Jimmy. Why can't I remember that guitarist's name from the 1960s? Jimmy.
Buffett?
No, not that one.
No,
dang
the
it.
other one.
Why can't I remember his name? This is so weird. Get back to the story.
Okay, so they
figure it out.
this comes to the point where Rios is like, that's not what I meant. You pull very strong. Like, like he's pulling out his tie a little bit just so he can breathe again. So apparently not only did the queen take control, she also added a little bit of force to it too. So bit
Yeah.
scary for him.
Yeah.
But not enough to make him change the plan or worry about
No.
anything. Because
Well,
nobody knows.
Nobody's realized, right?
Nobody knows.
At that moment, Jody admits that she's not herself and just kind of like storms off.
Which is really
Right.
weird because they're like, the biobed's not a doctor, but they've got a doctor who just removed a spleen the other day, so...
Different kind of doctor. She's a cyberneticist.
And Picard is an android.
Okay, fair point.
yeah.
Fair point. But he's
That's
not
true.
like a robot android. He's like a biosynth thing.
She just took
So,
care
like,
of a
organs.
cop and removed his spleen.
The biobed did all the work but removed the spleen. That's pretty simple stuff versus like diagnosing why somebody's comatose.
It would be another Star Trek thing where we find out that just because certain skill sets today are segregated by blah 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 blah, that you could have a medical doctor be an expert in cyberneticism.
No.
Whatever.
We heard Phlox specifically go like, "Oh no, I have advanced degrees in veterinary medicine and this and
Yeah.
blah blah blah," and he just like lists them out. He goes, "Oh, and dentistry too," and it's like, okay, so they still kept all separate. Got it.
Separate, yes, but one specialist to do all the things instead of having, like, imagine if Phlox had to refer people to other specialists on this ship.
Well, so that does happen to Picard actually in TNG, right? Like when he has to get the heart surgery, and Pulaski's saying she can do it here. Picard's like, I want to go to like a starbase. He goes to a starbase, and they get like the best heart surgeon that they had, and then they're like, oh no, never mind. We actually need the best heart surgeon in the quadrant, and that ends up being Pulaski again. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
So
So she
there are
can be
still
your
specialists.
generalist and your specialist.
Yeah, but I'm just saying there are still true specialists out there. Maybe for something like this, like diagnosing a coma patient, you still need somebody with a bit
Well,
more practice.
These time travelers aren't from the ancient 2460s anymore. They're from the 2301, whatever, 2401.
25 aughts.
2401. It's the 25th century.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're right. 24 aughts.
Yarp.
Okay, so whatever. Next scene is Renee knocking back another drink. They've shown this a few times just to emphasize it. And at this point, we see that she's reliving the disaster simulation earlier. We see her like panicking, trying to get out of the seat and all that. And she like settles down, like sterns herself up, and like gets up. She's gonna walk away and talk to someone. And Picard was like, "Oh shit. Okay, well that's the last chance." and he like runs off. Talon goes like, "Go!" Essentially agrees that it's now or never, and he asks if he knows what he's going to say to her. Picard is very honest and goes, "Not sure," and he starts following, and then he bumps into a familiar face to us and a familiar face to him, but it's not who he thinks it is for a moment.
Oh.
Ugh.
It's the father of eugenics. The second father of eugenics? I don't know.
I mean, Adam Soong at
The
this
great
point
great grandson
is-
of eugenics.
Yeah, so he bumps into Adam Soong, who remarks that they have a friend in common, Q, and Picard immediately realizes what's going on. He's been sent by Q. Q is messing with me. Q is manipulating people again. Why did he choose this guy? Kind of things must all flash right through his head, and tells him, "Hey, you should not have anything to do with Q. Q is no friend of either of ours," etc. And Soong makes it very clear that he has no interest in being a part of this game, but he's got to do this because he doesn't say, but we know it's for Kore.
Mhm.
So, at this point, we realize that he's actually gotten some influence here because he must have become like a very big donor to this organization very quickly because he's now on their board out of nowhere with a huge donation. So somehow he's still massively wealthy, even though he's banned from actually doing science. So yeah, this explains why he had that super fast 3D printer last episode too.
I
Couldn't
really.
Q... Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna remark on how interesting it must be for Stewart and Spiner to act as antagonists towards each other.
He's
Oh,
been
yeah.
in war before, right?
I mean, yeah, but like Lore was a different kind of menacing than this. I guess I don't know.
No, I agree. I think it must have been very interesting for sure.
think
It's
it's
certainly
just
new.
To see Spiner as a bad guy.
Yeah. And I mean, couldn't Q in theory, I mean, I know he's still kind of not really good on that, but I mean, couldn't Q in theory still somehow manage, I mean, like, maybe he's not super wealthy, maybe Q figured something out there. I mean, that, I don't know, it wouldn't make sense to me for him to have all of that money after what just happened, and after, I mean, maybe he still has, maybe he's one of those people that has like assets overseas. It wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, maybe. Or he just kind of hacked their system and made it look like he donated a ton of money, right? But
Yeah.
in doing that, then you'd think that they would notice that before they made him a member of their board or something, right?
Yeah.
Like, either way, there are questions to be pondered about there, but it doesn't really matter. At this point, we just get this really tense conversation between Picard and Soong, and he also, some people, some high society people pull out Soong, and they thank him for his donation, and he starts telling them like, "Hey, that man over there, he's dangerous," and the security start to converge on Picard.
It's smart. It's very, very smart.
It's devious for sure,
Yeah.
because that means he doesn't have to get he doesn't have to get his hands dirty either, right? Like, Soong doesn't have to throw a punch and get an actual thing going on. He just has to like start a rumor.
Oh yeah. It's creepy. And it's also, I think that one thing I love about this episode is that it does very much keep you on the edge of your seat. It's just like, okay, cool, they got out of that. Nope, fuck. And then they have to do the other crazy shit to figure that out. And I love that about Picard in general. I feel like he's always had that kind of pacing of like, they got out of this, but then there's this.
I mean,
And
it's
then
a
there's also
caper
this.
episode, right? This is a caper episode, so it's got to be every hurdle is
Oh,
something
yeah.
that they've got to figure a way around. They got to science the shit out of every problem and move past it. So,
Exactly. It's
all right.
awesome.
So now we cut to another flash forward again. This time we've got Picard. We see him. That now we confirm that he's in Teresa's clinic. She is working to save him. And again, he hears his mother's voice, and she's telling him to look up again. So that has become kind of a repeating motif a
Mhm.
lot. And cut forward again, or cut back rather, 14 minutes earlier. They got to her clinic really fast.
I'm
from
thinking
wherever the hell
about it,
they
like
were.
26 minutes earlier from him falling to 14 minutes earlier to him being at a clinic and on a table, and she just happens to be there. Like, wow.
It's
I
pretty
mean-
it's pretty quick. I mean,
Maybe they beamed. Maybe they teleported.
Who's running the transporter?
Yeah, I mean, who's on the
And they can't trust the computer on the ship either. So.
Nope. And then Teresa would have had to get. I mean, she would have questioned that immediately. Like, how the hell did y'all get here so damn fast? I mean, with LA traffic, bullshit.
I mean, it's the middle of the night. Hopefully, LA traffic calms down in the middle of the night.
Well, that's true. I mean, yeah, that's true. That's true. But
all right, so 14 minutes earlier, Picard is in trouble. The security guards are coming out from all sides at him. He's lost Renee. He's trying to figure out where the hell she is. He asks if anybody has eyes on her. Rios does, and she's on the move. And then we get this another scene with Girardi and the Queen. And this is the incredible scene, which is my background for this episode. They need a distraction, is what the Queen explains to Girardi. And with all these things going on, Raffi's reporting that exits are blocked. Talon isn't answering calls at all. Rios doesn't think that Renee's going to stay at the party much longer. She says she's about ready to leave. And then the Queen goes, "You want to help? Let's provide the distraction." And the Queen sets off a nano-electric pulse, knocks out the lights. It's not an EMP. Knocks out the lights, and then starts to sing in the dark on a balcony. And she sings Shadows of the Night from Pat Benatar and just fucking rocks it.
yeah,
Like, there's no other way to describe that. She does
It's
such a
really
good job.
good. Now, I still think that, I mean, because your picture shows the little circle behind it, but I still think that was intended to have like an alcove reference.
Maybe, I don't know. It doesn't look. It looks generic enough that it could just be whatever was hanging at that actual museum where they took this video.
true.
Bless
But
you.
I feel like it definitely was at the very least like considered and like slightly intentional.
mean-
Maybe not necessarily like did it on purpose, but sort of just like in kind of a nice,
A queen
nice little thing.
makes her appearance from above and then descends to the level of the mortals. And that's what's
So-
happening here.
It was very Ava Perón and Evita for me, right? Like coming out of the balcony and just like belting it out. Like that a lot. Now, there's been a lot of criticism of this scene. She knocks out the electricity, and then suddenly somehow the spotlight shines on her and the band immediately starts picking it up and starts playing along with her. Like, that's just too contrived, Renzo. That can't be a good scene. I'm like, well, hold the fuck on. Here's something more contrived that sounds like something out of a movie but really happened. And I heard this on NPR this week. So they've got a reporting group. They are in Lviv. They are going to like a shelter for refugees from the western parts of the country, or from the eastern parts of the country in the west. And they are talking to families, talking about like what they left behind, all that type of stuff. Cool. They come into a new room and they see that there's this group of moms and their kids are sitting there together, and they start walking towards this group of parents and the kids. And out of nowhere, a blonde, beautiful little girl runs out in front of them, holds up one finger, and then she pulls out of her backpack, a pink backpack, a Bluetooth microphone, right? Out of nowhere, and pulls out a little Bluetooth speaker, and she sets it down. And she starts to sing for them the Ukrainian national anthem. Apparently, this little girl is like a TV actress who's done commercials and TV shows and movies in Ukraine, and she's in this, happens to be in just this fucking shelter of all places, where because her house was blown up in Kharkiv, and she wants to sing, and she gives this rousing rendition of the Ukrainian national anthem. People along the sides of the room start like holding their hands to their hearts. Mothers start like singing along with her in the distance. Like, it's a whole thing. It seems like something out of a fucking movie, but it just spontaneously happened in a shelter in Lviv, right? Like, contrived things happen in real life. The fact that there was an AV geek who was in charge of the lighting on this floor for Girardi's little solo moment here just suddenly goes, "Oh, no one told me we were doing this. Hold on, let me point it at her right." And suddenly she's got the spotlight on her, is less crazy than what I just described in this little Lviv like bomb shelter.
No, I agree. I fully agree. The only thing I can see is like maybe the band be like that's not on the set list, or is, I don't know. But like,
it's a common song, but it's not.
True.
It may not have been on the set list.
yeah, so that's one of those things they haven't rehearsed. Like, as a music, like they haven't rehearsed, they haven't done it together, they haven't figured out what their pacing of that song would be, you know. And so for me, that's the only that part I'm like, but like, yeah, it totally makes sense that some dude would be like, "Oh shit," and like put the light on her and like, "Oh my god."
So I do
totally
have
makes
a
sense.
cool. Okay, tell me why you're making that face, Dag, first.
Just for the audience, really. I want to argue it, but I can't find the words to make a rational point right now. So
Bring out your inner Big J and just give it to me because you know he would.
I don't have my no. I don't have the words
Okay.
right now.
Fair enough.
Valid.
All right. So one of the fun facts, the song that they sing is "Shadows of the Night." The original script had actually a different song that they were going to sing. They were originally going to sing "Feeling Good" by Nina Simone, and Alison Pill had to say that, "Hold on, beautiful song, but probably not a good idea for me, a white chick, to be singing what is literally a like African American empowerment song, part of the Civil Rights Act, so or Civil Rights Movement. So let's pick something else." And so they changed it at pretty late in production. Actually, they changed it like day before shooting.
Did
Respect.
Alison Pill do the vocals?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, she did. Yes, she did. Queen shit. I love it.
And-
I want to see the Picard season 2 soundtrack with "I Still Hate You" and then Alison Pill doing this version of Pat Benatar.
I have been saying this for years, guys. I want a Star Trek musical episode. Give me it to like the Buffy musical episode or the Scrubs musical episode. I
So
don't care.
See,
Just
that's
give it to me.
something that we could totally have.
I
And
want a
people are
lower
like,
decks.
"Nah."
I think we might get one in lower decks. I genuinely think they're gonna do
Well, Tawny Newsome has singing experience, right?
What's
like,
the name of that band in Lower Decks that everybody loves?
it. The Choo
the Choo Choo Sisters, the Choo Sisters.
And then they threw out that third chew and you weren't expecting it.
Yeah. No, she actually when we were in Chicago, she actually got up on stage and performed with 5 Year Mission. And so like that's something I think that's something that was, I could be wrong because I wasn't at the panel, but I think that's something that was actually discussed at the Lower Decks panel. So that
Man.
I think that they're probably trying to do that, considering
I want it. Like, give it to me in the
Same.
vein right here,
Give-
right
give.
here.
Exactly.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
I
cool.
really look forward to that kind of thing. I'm a giant musical geek, surprise, but
Rent?
I've never seen a Trek musical and I need it.
Agreed.
Okay, so at the end of this scene, she takes a bit of a bow, and when she bends down, she goes out of frame. When she goes back up, she is holding hands with the Board Queen, and they go up together. That was shot live. That wasn't a CGI effect or something composited in. That was shot that way. So, well done. Looks great.
Nice.
Yeah,
So
Uh,
Annie has to be already bowing in that scene.
correct.
So she bows, grabs Annie's hand, and they both come up.
Come up together.
That's an easy shot to do and a really nice cinematography.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm glad that they did it practically rather than try and do something silly or CGI with it, right? Like
Right.
it cuts.
You don't
Agreed.
need to do a green screen or anything like that.
Nope.
No, easy peasy. It must have been really interesting for a lot of the extras going like, I don't really know what we're doing here, but there's a woman with some weird ass shit on her head, and you know what? I'm getting paid. I'm just gonna shut up.
No, it was mentioned. It was mentioned at the Picard panel that when they were at the, I believe it was the premiere.
Was Annie
um,
there?
Annie, yeah,
Okay.
Annie went to premiere or something like that, and Annie went up to Patrick Stewart and said, hi, how are you, etc. And he didn't recognize her because he'd never seen her without the makeup on. And so she said, "Yeah, I'm the Borg Queen," and he said, "Our Borg Queen?" And he had no idea. So yeah, no, that's definitely
Was this
she
at
was
the
not.
panel at Chicago? That
Yes.
this
No,
happened?
at the premiere.
No, no, that happened at the premiere.
Okay.
She was talking about
That's
it.
what I wanted to
He
know.
was talking
Yeah.
about. Sorry,
Okay.
yeah, I
Oh,
didn't make
wild.
that super clear.
That's amazing.
But no, he's our Borg Queen, which I just thought was hilarious.
Our
But no, she
Borg
was
Queen.
in the makeup for it was very much that way. So yeah, the extras probably, what the fuck's going on?
So
Either
you
that
okay?
or some of them were like me going,
I want to
"Oh my God, Borg
reiterate
Queen."
my thought that this red dress, though, is still a call out to Caprica 6, because at this moment is when the Borg Queen goes, feels all those endorphins. That's just what I needed to take the wheel. And she takes over, and we see Girardi's eyes go black for a second and then clear back up, Borg Queen style. Super creeps.
Phew.
Totally relaxed.
It's
Very
a
nice
lot.
smile.
Girardi's insistence that she's in control just doesn't do it anymore.
So it looks like cortisol resists and endorphins accept. And maybe that's how Picard was able to resist assimilation the first time.
Just high stress.
Yeah, your body's being completely invaded in a completely messed up way. And yeah, cortisol would be my best friend in that moment.
So we cut to our most lovely scene of the episode, like our most touching one, and we've got Picard finally catching up with Renee. He's just kind of like slowly approaching her. He looks like a security guard. Renee is defensive and is like, I want to be alone. Picard's like, sometimes I found that when we want to be alone, what we really need is a hug, is essentially what he says. And we need to talk about it. And, talk about something else. That helps. So he suggests that she look up. And above her is the suspended OV-165 shuttle, which we remember from the intro to Enterprise, which is delightful. Which she smiles, like she's glowing when she's talking about this thing. She calls it Spike because of its kick-ass Arrow Spike engines. Love that. Like, it's such a change in her demeanor just to go from like thinking about herself to thinking about the ship. It was great. Very well acted scene.
Agreed. The whole conversation is so lovely, and I think it's that sort of fatherly mentor side of Picard that we see a lot of in TNG, and more so even here. And I don't know, I love it.
Do you remember that line from Girardi in the second episode about how I want you to be my dad to Picard?
Yes.
That was me during this scene.
That was so me. Yeah, absolutely.
So, couple of things here. I love how him asking her to talk about the
the shuttle.
OV, whatever you call it. OV-165 completely disarms her, and she goes right into talking about it. She's totally okay with it. But did anybody recognize the model next to Picard in this scene?
The Nomad probe?
The Nomad probe!
Yeah.
Nomad!
Nice.
And they also had a rig of the Apollo mission as it appeared in the Gary 7 episode. Earlier in the episode.
Nice.
So, that's pretty cool.
So this one's probably less as an Easter egg because we didn't get as close a look at it, but in one of the previous rooms in that hallway, there's also a Voyager probe in one of the stands along the side, which, the Voyager probes were real things, so it makes sense that NASA would be honoring them.
But is it Voyager 6?
We can't tell. It's not close enough. But it could have been Voyager 6.
Voyager 6 was supposed to have been launched in the 90s, so. Which is sad because we only ever got 2 probes, so.
Yeah, sometimes reality is less impressive than fiction.
True that.
So. But yeah, so Picard is talking to Renee, and he starts to give her this fantastic pep talk. I don't want to quote the whole lines, but the whole bit about how, like, sometimes those who shine brightest feel the sting of fear and melancholy in ways that others can never understand is really touching and true, because we've all felt that way, right? Like sometime we don't know why we're so sad, but we recognize that we are. And just having somebody to like there to affirm that our experience is valid would be very friendly and nice. So this whole thing is just a fantastic pep talk by Picard. He didn't prep for this because he doesn't know her to any degree, and he is just vamping on this as he goes, and it is inspired.
I love it. I really love this scene. I think it's a really I think it's really a time for Picard to shine as somebody, like, in his emotions to come out and for him to be that sort of mentor, and obviously we get the part with your mother was lucky to have you, and he has trouble dealing with that, and I think we're going to learn a lot more about what Picard did deal with and how he dealt with it more specifically, and that little bit of foreshadowing as well, but no, I really loved that scene. I thought it was so wonderful.
I also thought the whole line about like fear is fear. It doesn't play riddles. It doesn't speak in riddles. It doesn't play games with you. Fear is fear, which is just such a good thing to remember too. It's a biological response. It's normal. It's natural. It can be useful, but don't let it rule you. Don't try and like dig too deep into it. It's not deeper than you think.
Yeah, I loved that.
Because the very next thing is we cut to somebody who's being ruled by fear.
Yeah.
Very true. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yep.
By fear and I don't want to say love because I don't feel that. But
I think
we'll
it's
talk
ego.
about that later.
We'll talk to that scene in a second, but I think it's a lot of ego. Anyways, back to that scene, right? Like she's remembering about her having seen Dr. Mae Jameson having a toast and wanted all the astronauts on stage, right? If you remember, Mae Jemison was actually in an episode of Star Trek TNG. She had a bit of a walk-on role. She is a quite famous astronaut. Yeah.
So cool.
Dr. Mae Jemison, and it's been 20 plus years since she was on TNG.
Yeah.
Still a memorable little cameo though, but she was great in that.
Absolutely, yeah. I thought it was a great callback. Yeah, I loved that actually.
All right, cool. So, anyways, that's where they all start walking back. Right, he's walking with her towards that toast, and she really does look like she's gonna do it. She's gonna trust that light. She's gonna follow the better angel. She's gonna do the mission. She's sacked up, essentially, right? Okay, cut back to Sung sitting in his car. He is pissed. He's thinking about Kore, and he looks kind of disheveled, right? Like maybe he had a bit of a rougher bit in the evening after Picard snuck off somehow. Like he doesn't look quite as put together as he had just a few minutes before, or in the previous scene with him, rather. So there's anguish there. He's struggling with it. He knows what he has to do. He has to remove an obstacle, Renee. So, okay. He begins driving his car. He sees Renee walking across like a crosswalk. Picard is with her, and he just like floors it to try and hit Renee. Picard throws himself at her, pushes her out of the way, and gets hit by the car himself. And now the episode comes full circle, and we're back where the episode started.
So much for Tesla's anti-collision sensing, right?
You can override it.
Yeah.
Maybe it just didn't see Picard as human.
I don't know. Tesla's not that smart.
Yeah.
I think I'm funny.
I enjoy. No, it is. I think I really enjoy the antagonist drives Tesla. Anyway,
now that moment where Rios is calling him Admiral, and very clearly Renee hears that, right? Like she reacts to hearing him called Admiral for a second. I think that might be interesting. That might be a bit of a hint towards more conversations.
She did
there.
mention that he was a little too old to be a security guard.
Well, his response was, "I'm just the wisest of them all." So it's evasive, but if he's an admiral, he should be getting a bit more pomp and circumstance than he had at this party.
What is seeing the man who just gave her the best pep talk of all time go down in front of a car after saving her life? What's that going to do to her resolve for this mission?
I would hope it strengthens it. To be honest.
Same.
I would like to hope so too, but we're not on episode 7 yet.
Right. I mean, think of it as like a martyr, right? Like if somebody does something really awesome for you and it saves you and helps you out a ton and then suddenly passes afterwards, you don't want their efforts to go to waste, right? Like you'd want to make sure that even if they can't be proud of you, they would have been proud of you, and giving up wouldn't follow that. So
you are describing normal empathy.
I don't know. Human feelings are weird. I try and keep up.
Your mind to my mind, my mind to yours.
So at this point, Rios and them are all in talents that they need to get him to a hospital. Rios is like, they'll want an ID. They point out the ship, and he goes, Biomed is not a doctor, but Rios does happen to know a doctor. So cut to Teresa's clinic.
Ba-da-da-da-da-da.
Do you want to bring up the thing now?
Yeah, sure. So I don't know how many of y'all noticed the iconography of Teresa's clinic, but it's Las Mariposas. So we talked about this in the previous
I was gonna
episode.
talk about that.
And she has a butterfly symbol, and we had mentioned in a previous episode how the butterfly symbol is very interesting because they had talked about the butterfly effect and how that affects time travel and stuff like that. But we also know in the first episode of this season, 7 of 9 is aboard La Serena transporting medical equipment.
Oh, yeah.
And on the side of these medical crates is the butterfly. The same butterfly.
Bruh!
So she is incredibly important to the timeline. And what if Picard, what if Sung, what if all of that is the red herring? And it's this one doctor who needs to be able to continue to provide support 400 years later.
I would love that, actually.
Yeah,
lot.
imagine if there's like a Mariposa initiative in the 25th century that like helps with refugee problems and helps with resettlement and helps with medical care, and it's all the result of her little clinic.
There is a refugee ship called the Mariposa in Star Trek lore. I believe it ferried the Irish Americans away. It's the
SS Mariposa. I remember.
Mm-hmm.
Star Trek.
That would be really, really dope. I didn't realize the medical grades had the butterfly on it in the beginning. I had no idea.
22nd century DY 500 class.
Nice.
And it was from the episode Up the Long Ladder. So
not a popular episode, mind you.
Not a popular episode for its caricatured portrayal of our Irish friends across the
Sorry,
pond.
Murph.
But it would definitely that's just where my brain is. Like, what if she's the real... What if she is the... what was the name of the woman from City on the Edge of Forever?
Edith Keeler.
Yeah, what if she's the Edith Keeler, but we have to prevent her death?
I wonder if it's more of like these are sort of the unsung heroes type of thing, where like Renee is still very important to the timeline, but we also have this side thing that's also incredibly important to the timeline, but doesn't get the time of day for certain reasons.
Well, that's
if that makes any sense,
right? Like, we've got 3 now characters from this time period, all of which there are now serious hints that are very significant for the future, right? And they're intentionally feeding us details that like make us wonder, well, is it Renee or is it Adam Sung? Like, is it something that he does with his research here, or now we're getting this third thread, right? Of like, is it Teresa and her clinic? It's very interesting that they're playing this game with our brains, because I like it and it makes it fun, right? Like, it's not something cut and dry. We don't know if Renee is really what matters here. Like, go or stay, the future may change, but not significant enough. Which one of them is the one that really wrecks things?
Yeah, I mean, I will say this, and I think that they mentioned the tapestry of time a lot. Tapestry has more than one thread, baby. I mean, one thread can screw it up, but one thread might pull two or 3 or 4 or 5 other ones out with. I mean, I think that that's really important, that they're, you know, to change the future, you can't focus on one specific thing. There's a bunch of different shit that's going to play in. Even if you try to avoid butterflies, that ain't gonna happen.
Which is weird, because we've already done a tapestry in Star Trek, and it was pulling one specific thread that changed the timeline. So, I
mean, things can butterfly like crazy, right? But the distinctions between the original or the intended plot line and where things are because of every single thread, not every thread matters the same amount, right? So we saw this in the Loki show. If you make changes in a timeline that is about to end, or a place that's about to go through its apocalypse or a cataclysm or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's all going to be done anyways, right? Even if you make changes, those changes don't perpetuate. So let's say we know World War III happens in 2026, right? If the first thing that happens in World War III is LA gets like strategic cluster nuked, most of the things that go on in LA are not going to matter past the next 2 years, because that's a very definitive ending to every single one of those threads. That probably doesn't happen because these threads end up mattering, but just as a hypothetical, right? Like, plot lines or threads in tapestries can end. They don't have to go all the way or matter all the way to the future. We have to figure out which one of these 3 is the one that really matters, and they'll tell us. We'll figure it out. But it's interesting to wonder.
Again, Suzanne, you said it best. You said that sometimes a thread can weave between several other threads, and we do have one thread weaving between 3 different threads. We have, if you want to say Picard and Co. is one thread, then they're weaving between Teresa and Sung and Renee. Mm-hmm. And so the 3 of them, if you, maybe not one, but I mean, if any 2 of those people disappear from the timeline prematurely, it could adversely affect the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
So, cutting to the actual scene now, Teresa is asking the crew if he has any conditions. They ask if he has any transplants, and Seven goes, he's got some transplants, and then Teresa asks how many, and Raffi goes, All of them.
Oh my god, love
Yeah.
that.
So he's got an unstable arrhythmia. It's a major cardiac event. It's your heart valves fluttering open and close, not properly pumping. So she grabs the defibrillator to actually correct that. And this is one of the few uses in television of a correct use of a defibrillator. It's not meant to start a stopped heart. It's not what it's for. It's to correct a rhythm imbalance. And that's what this is. So she puts the paddles down. She shocks him. And then her paddles fry because you're shocking something with an electrical system somewhere inside. Good times. But the defib is fried, which is an expensive machine, especially for a little tiny clinic.
Yeah. And she definitely reflects how messed up her situation is now.
Oh yeah.
And talking to Rios after that.
Yeah, so Teresa, as soon as she starts getting this to like after the defib moment, she orders everybody out of the room so that she can treat her patient. Appropriate, absolutely. Okay, back to our next scene. This is Corey writing in her journal with her, like, just in her sterile, clean home without feelings or emotion. She's just hanging out, and then Dad comes through the decontamination door. He looks unsteady on his feet. He sighs. He lays down on the couch. He whines about having invented all these machines and medicine and all that. Poured his heart. He gives a sob story that I don't really care about.
Yeah, same.
We've run into the same issue I had with our Ryson friend from Discovery season 4, Tarka, right? Like, okay, he has interesting motivations, cool, but once you've proven that you're a sociopath willing to do whatever, I stop giving you the empathy of the doubt, the sympathy.
Cool motive,
of the doubt,
still
right?
murder.
Yeah, cool motive, still murder. Right, exactly. So that's exactly what's happening here. He's telling us his why is his life's work. Cool. So here's a point that I want to make that I think might be a bit controversial. Hopefully not with you two, but maybe with amongst the rest of the crowd. But I don't think he cares about Corey as a person at all. He cares about her as a project. She is just a way to achieve his end goal of designing a better human or something.
I agree.
And that's it. He doesn't actually love. I don't think he's capable of it. I think these are all just playthings and puppets.
I think that he probably thinks that he loves her. I think
Yes.
that he is narcissistic, and I think that he does feel agony when she is in pain. I think that he probably does see her as a daughter, but I think that the way in which he sees it is skewed and flawed, clearly. I think that he thinks that he loves her, and he probably does to some extent, but doesn't in the way that is in any way that is healthy or normal or even human. It's ugh.
Yeah, I hope we don't get much of a redemption arc for him, because it's a fascination in fiction these days that every villain has their own side, their story that redeems them. None of that. I don't want any of that. This guy is bad.
No, it's like, I loved you, blah 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 blah. Yeah, okay, did you love the other 200 of them? Like, I don't want him to get this, like, oh, eugenicists are human too. Like, I don't want that shit.
No,
Don't
we're
want
good.
that. Don't want it. Thank
Go
you.
punch Nazis. Eugenicists are bad.
I mean, I literally cosplayed Seven from the Killing Game, who killed fascists. So, like,
Yes.
I'm you know, kill
Okay,
fascists.
so
Punch
yeah,
fascists.
the scene ends with Corey being like, "What are you talking about? What's your life's work?" And then he gets up and walks away, and Corey pleads, like, "Just be honest with me," but he just leaves her in the room, wondering and clueless. Cool. So back to the clinic. Picard is now stable but unresponsive. Talon thinks that this is not good enough. You need to wake up. You need to get him up. And then Rios is defending his friend Teresa that she's doing the best she can. And then she's like, "Hey, I don't need you to speak for me. I can defend myself here." To which Rios is like, "All right." And then she asks about the defib and what happened to it. Rios jokes that perhaps her son had cranked it up. And then Teresa just goes, "What a brave man to blame an innocent child for things." Cuts him to shreds with that one. And then Rios is like, "I know what this looks like, but, like, we're the good guys, I promise." And she's like, "Good guys never say that." And then kind of storms off. So
I don't blame her.
no, not at all.
It's like, yeah, I came running when you asked. You broke my machine, and now I have to go deal with my son, who
about
I'm
to wake
raising
up.
by myself, who's about to wake up and wonder where the hell I am. Yeah, I'd be pissed too, frankly. I'd be
Yeah.
very upset.
I mean, her position on this is very logical, right? But still, she did just save somebody's life, so it's probably worth from her perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do
I'm
you think, Dag?
so stoked about Santiago Cabrera. Like, I have loved that man since Heroes, so like it's so great to see him relaxed and not getting his head cut open by somebody.
Fair. I love Rios as a character so much. I do.
Maybe we'll get a
truly.
moment where Spock and Rios have some sort of crossover into the Zachary Quinto moment.
No. I remember when Zachary Quinto was announced. I know I'm going on a tangent, but like we were all like, "It's Siler. He's such an emotional character, and he's gonna try to play a Vulcan." Okay, and
Yeah.
now nobody remembers Siler.
Siler was a great villain.
He was.
Do you remember the mystery for those first couple seasons of like, what does he do with the brains? Does he eat the brains?
Yeah.
Like that was such a good like fan moment of like, no, I don't eat the brains. That's disgusting when they said it in the episode. All right. Anyways,
Oh my God.
this is no longer the Beyond Heroes podcast. Going back to Star Trek. Okay. We go back to Corey, and now she's in her father's lab, and she begins to search the internet, which she's apparently never done before, to find out stuff about her father, about Adam Sung. And she finds a video of his license getting revoked by the California Medical Board for violations of the Shenzhen Convention. She sees other stories about his disgrace, spearhead operations that got him labeled as a mad scientist, Dag's background. And yeah, and then she keeps digging when she finds videos of her dad with kids, and they're not events that she remembers happening, and video log after video log referring to the girls by names of Persephone, Despoina,
Artemis, yeah.
Persephata, Artemis, etc., 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 and all of them are going through these like horrible deaths and horrible death after horrible death. Then he's like, well, nope, this is the one. This is the one that's gonna make it. This is the last one. And that's where we suspect that Corey comes from.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Also, shout out to the people in the art department who took pictures of Brent Spiner as a younger man and with kids and photoshopped the faces onto the photos. Shout out to y'all. That's awesome. It was really great.
Worth noting here, and Dag and I talked about this the other day, but Corey is the other name, or maybe the informal name for the goddess Persephone. So the queen of the underworld, the goddess of the dead, life, grain, and destruction, daughter of Demeter.
And also the first and the last. Persephone wasn't Persephone the first as well.
Right. So the first one was Persephone, and this one's Corey.
Beginning and end.
Right. So there might be some significance there. Literally the goddess of the underworld. So maybe she is truly the reason why the Confederation.
She's going to be
happens.
important. She's going to be important. I don't doubt it at all. And I think that's what I love about this season is just like there's so many players in this that we could, that totally have different things. But
maybe she is Khan's designer, Khan's mother. Anyways, hey, yeah, right? So here's the fun one. There was an interview where Brent Spiner was asked in the Ready Room. He was asked about like any sort of background you can tell us about Adam Sung. And he's like, well, I can't share much of it, but I can share this bit, which I kind of made up for myself, and we're kind of going with it. But Adam Sung was adopted by a Chinese family. That's where he gets the name from. And that's where he was in China when he broke the Shenzhen Convention. Like, he was there. He wasn't in the United States during part of this. And I'm like, oh, well, he's in China. Isn't that where the eugenics wars all started? Like there's more crossing over here than I'd thought, but it's a good bit of extra detail for us.
Oh, nice. Yeah, no, it's gonna be very, very important. I don't know how, and I think that's part of the wonder of the show. But it's a lot.
So our little prediction, Dag, from a couple episodes ago that Corey is a test tube kid, totally correct, which is good validation, like that.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, Corey is horrified at the end of this. She feels violated, she feels abused, she doesn't remember so many of these things, and they all died. Like, what's gonna happen to her kind of moment. Like, there's a lot of emotions on Issa Briones' face, and she does a real good job with it. And do you guys have any other thoughts on this one?
You pretty much covered it all, man.
Yeah, you covered it.
So our next scene is Talon conducting some scans with her sonic screwdriver of Picard showing his brain issues, but the synapses are all firing, but the activity should be minimal if he's in a coma, but instead it's all firing. Talon agrees, and so all of his vitals are fine, but there's no sign of brain damage, no bleeding, nothing, so it's just a mental thing. And Talon's like, well, I'll go in and get him. And the 25th century folks are like, the fuck she say?
Talk about extreme measures.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. So at that moment, she describes it as a jury-rigged mind meld. Pretty fair approximation, I think.
Yeah.
She can hack into whatever memory or thought he's fixated on, interact with it, and then Raffi's like, being in a coma is a protective measure by your brain. We shouldn't pull him out of that. And Talon replies that a lot of what we do is protective. That doesn't mean it's good for you. So we need him. He needs to be out of there. We need to save the future. So without him, the future is lost. Which is a moment.
Yeah,
And-
I think I agree with Talon. I mean, I see where it's sort of just like, hey, yo, no, he can't die. And she's like, do you have a better option? Because right now all we have to do is wait, and if we wait long enough, it could be really, really bad. So we have two options, and it's I tend to agree, and I agree with this sort of need to protect her mentor, but I'm with Talon on this one.
So one way to look at it is this, right? There is a danger and a risk to interfering with Picard's coma and pulling him out soon, right? But there is a surefire situation where if they don't act, the bad future happens. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Did you
All right,
see
and then the
a
last-
lot of this imagery is really kind of creepy from his what he's experiencing. Like, there appears to be some kind of a beast monster, and I'm like, that's a Riemann. But then I'm like, no, that is how young Picard remembers his dad, because everybody knows Patrick Stewart had to deal with an angry father who hurt his mother, and he's been an advocate for domestic services in the situations for a very long time.
And again, we hear the mother saying, look up at the stars again. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting things going on in his head. The other thing that we get notably in this scene is that they took Renee to quarantine. So at least that good bit of news happened. She's in quarantine. She can't back out now, supposedly.
Mhm.
We'll see if that turns out to be true. But Q is still after her. So
Oh yeah, 100%.
Ooh-wee-oo.
I really like the sonic screwdriver connection as well, because
it's technically called a servo. I'm just being cheeky, but
yeah, no, I know, but but yeah, that's pretty much it. And I love that so much. And it's like, yeah, I have a thing that can hack into her phone. Don't worry about it. And like, I love little stuff like that. They're just like, we can look at his brain in real time. Star Trek. It's awesome.
Jerry must have had a lot of fun filming this episode, because all she had to do was show up, wear a pretty dress, and memorize like 3 sentences.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Hair,
She did look
makeup,
very nice.
dress, on point, done.
Yeah, I kind of wish that there had been more Seven, but I feel like that what we needed to see of Seven was her enjoying herself and kind of relaxing and chilling out, because she's doing what she can, but like the people with the skills that they need are really kind of doing what they need to do, and so Raffi and Seven are just sort of there to like watch and wait and help if needed.
To be honest though, right? Like anything that what Girardi was tasked to do with hacking the computer systems, I trust that Seven could have done that just as well.
Probably.
Like, she has a ton of experience with computer programming. We've seen her reprogram things on Voyager a billion times, so I think she could have done it. Maybe she didn't take the intro to antiquated coding at some point, but who knows?
That's true. I don't know, but I mean, yeah, I guess I understand with Girardi's like the antiquated coding class. That makes sense, because Seven's all like future Borg tech stuff.
Yeah.
And now she's like, this is it's like me trying to use a rotary or something. I mean, I can use a rotary phone for Christ's sake, but
I'll just put you on a DOS computer. It's fine. You'll be okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
CD
our
/DEL ***.
Star doesn't work in the original. That works in Linux. It doesn't work in DOS. The star variable didn't exist until like Windows 3.1.
I don't know when Windows 3.1 came out, but I know I was using star.star in like 94, 95.
Well, Windows 95 came out in 95, and 3.1 was before that, so
All right.
logically. Whatever. Doesn't matter. This isn't the Windows history podcast. So, okay. The last line that we get is from Raffi saying, like, a lot can still go wrong by going into his head. So much has happened since we came to this bullshit time period. And she wonders out loud, how much worse could it get? And then we cut to this creepy fucking scene of Girardi strolling through the streets of LA in her beautiful red dress with the overlapping voices in her head talking over each other. And it was a thing.
The only thing I needed was All Along the Watchtower by Jimi Hendrix to be playing right here.
So good.
And do you want to know something really crazy? I'm just going to give a little bit of a spoiler for the next episode of Star Trek Picard. The actor who plays Gaius Baltar will be on.
He's in the episode. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I saw it.
Oh,
So cool. It's so cool.
So yeah, you a lot of people can be like, no, it's a stretch. The writers aren't smart enough to do that. I'm like, hold on, they got Gaius Baltar in this show. Yeah, everybody was thinking BSG. Everybody was thinking that.
Oh, for sure. And just that moment where people were like, oh, well, I mean, it's a red dress. Red dresses are real common. Okay, blonde bombshell in a red dress with a computer problem. I
With a
think
head
that there
case.
might be a connection.
Yep.
Yeah.
There might be.
Absolutely. And we'll find out more about that connection next week when we get to see Star Trek Picard Episode 7. Any final thoughts about this episode?
I'm very happy that Seven got to enjoy herself for a little bit. The Borg Queen is creepy as shit, and due to Agnes's whole look in this episode, I know what my next cosplay is going to be.
I just want to say that Alison Pill is a gifted actress, and like she really showed a
Ditto.
wide range here. So I just want more Agnes singing. I would delight in that. I would also love to see a scene where we have more than one character singing. Give me a duet with like Picard and Girardi. That'd be great.
Picard, I mean, and I know Jerry can sing as well. I mean, we know Jerry can sing, so that would be lovely too. I don't know. Star Trek Picard
heck,
musical episode. Go.
Let's just throw in Brent Spiner because we know he can sing too.
Oh yeah. Star Trek Picard musical episode. That's the 10th episode. That's why it's not named yet.
Man.
It's just that's it. It's only 9 episodes and then episode 10 musical.
I am here for it.
Well,
Honestly.
Renzo, Suzanne, thanks so much for being on the show tonight. We will join the audience again next week when we find out a little bit more about what Girardi is doing. Painting the town red, perhaps?
Oh, did you notice the subtle Borg music at that last scene too?
Yes. It's so
Hey,
awesome.
All right. Good night.
Well, to the listeners and the viewers, thank you so much for going boldly with Beyond Trek Podcast. Hey everybody, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to our Patreon and Anchor supporters. Big thanks to Stephanie Baker, S. Tam, Anne Marie, Jim Cook, and Nora Hickson. We really appreciate your support. Thanks for being a part of Beyond Trek Podcast.
We are Beyond Trek Podcast. Lower your inhibitions and surrender your ears. We will add inspirational and hilarious Trek content to your day. Your attention will adapt to subscribe to us. Resistance is futile.